smash that like button right now and welcome back Blue Jays Nation, because if you thought the first couple weeks of this season were going to be boring, the universe has news for you. We are talking about a win that snapped a brutal 5-game losing streak against the defending world champions. We are talking about a player who arrived in Toronto looking like a bargain bin castaway and has the entire fan base buzzing about what he could become. And we are talking about a trade rumor that has split this fan base right down the middle. The idea of shipping out Jose Berrios for a White Sox outfielder while our rotation is already being held together with bandages and prayers. This is the kind of week Blue Jays fans live for. Subscribe right now, drop that like, and let's get into every single detail because this episode is absolutely packed. Let's start with the win, because after everything this team has been through in early April, 5 straight losses, a brutal blowout that had everyone questioning whether this squad had already forgotten how to compete, a roster that looks less like the defending American League champions every time another name gets added to the injured list. Tuesday's 4-3 victory over the Los Angeles Dodgers meant something real. Not just in the standings, where the Blue Jays are still climbing out of 4th place in the AL East. Not just in the momentum column, but in the deeply human sense that this group of professional baseball players needed to look themselves in the mirror, feel the weight of everything that has gone wrong, and still find a way to beat the best team in baseball. That is what they did. Dylan Cease was the catalyst on the mound, striking out 8 batters across 5+ innings while battling command issues that resulted in 4 walks and a hit batter. Cease's stuff was clearly working. 8 strikeouts against this lineup is not an accident. But every time he fell behind in counts, every time he let base runners accumulate, you could feel the anxiety radiating off the fan base watching at home. He ran into serious trouble in the 6th inning when Will Smith walked, Freddie Freeman singled, and Max Muncy walked to load the bases with nobody out against the back-to-back World Series champions. It was a moment that had potential disaster written all over it. John Schneider reached into his bullpen and called for Louis Varland. What happened next was the turning point of the entire game. Varland walked into a loaded bases, no-out situation against a lineup featuring Shohei Ohtani and Freddie Freeman and just went to work. He escaped with only a single run scoring on a sacrifice fly, stranding the rest of the runners and keeping the Blue Jays in a 1-run game. That is not a situation where average relievers escape with minimal damage. That is a situation where mental toughness separates the good from the great. And Varland was great. His outing was quiet in the way that only the most important outs in baseball can be quiet. You watch them happen in real time, you breathe out in relief, and then 2 innings later you realize that the entire outcome of the game pivoted on those 3 or 4 pitches in the 6th inning. Jeff Hoffman got the save, his 2nd of the season. And look, we have all been thinking about Jeff Hoffman and that World Series 9th inning. That image lives in the collective memory of Blue Jays fans whether we want it to or not. So every time Hoffman steps on the mound in a close game and gets it done, there is a catharsis happening. Striking out Shohei Ohtani, walking 1, and closing the door on the Dodgers 4-3, that is the kind of performance that starts to build a different narrative around a player. Every save he records is a brick in a new story. Let him build it. Now let's talk about Tyler Fitzgerald. Because this acquisition is the kind of low-key, cash considerations, technically an afterthought transaction that sometimes turns into one of the best moves of an entire season. The Blue Jays picked up the 28-year-old infielder from the San Francisco Giants last week in exchange for cash considerations after the Giants designated him for assignment. He was immediately optioned to AAA Buffalo, where he will wait and watch and stay ready for whenever the call comes. On the surface, the numbers from 2025 are not inspiring. He hit just .217 over 72 games with 4 home runs, 14 RBI, and a .606 OPS. That is not a line that screams elite depth acquisition. That is a line that explains why a team was willing to let him go for cash. But the mistake, and it would be a significant mistake, would be evaluating Tyler Fitzgerald entirely on what happened last year and ignoring what he has shown himself capable of being. Because in 2024, Tyler Fitzgerald was a completely different player. In 2024, Fitzgerald slashed .280 with an .831 OPS. He hit 15 home runs. He stole 17 bases in 21 attempts. He posted a .132 WRC+, meaning he was 32% more productive than the average major league hitter. He finished the season with 3.0 WOAH, which for a player in roughly 340 plate appearances is legitimate. There was a stretch in July 2024 where he hit 5 home runs in 5 consecutive games and 7 homers in 8 games, the first Giants player to accomplish either feat since Barry Bonds. Barry Bonds, the greatest hitter in franchise history. The comparison is absurd in scope, but the production for that stretch was genuinely elite. So what explains the collapse from that production to the .217 he posted in 2025? The short answer is a combination of factors that all converged at once. He had a broken rib. He dealt with a herniated disc. He was battling through physical ailments that would derail any hitter's timing, particularly a player whose game relies on elite bat speed and explosive lateral movement. And beyond the injuries, the Giants signed Luis Arraez in the offseason, which meant Fitzgerald's path to playing time was immediately blocked before he could even try to recover his form. The Blue Jays got him for essentially nothing, sent him to Buffalo, and now have a player with a demonstrated ceiling of an elite offensive producer sitting in their organizational depth, available to call up the moment circumstances demand it. And given the current injury situation, Addison Barger out for multiple weeks with bilateral ankle discomfort, Alejandro Kirk with the fractured thumb, the rotation in shambles, circumstances are going to demand it sooner rather than later. Barger can play third base, right field, left field. Fitzgerald covers second base, shortstop, and has outfield experience. The organizational fit is genuinely seamless, and the potential upside of a player who showed 3.0 WOAH value in 2024 makes this one of the more intriguing low-cost moves of the early season. He spoke about his arrival in Toronto with what can only be described as genuine gratitude and belief, describing the opportunity as exactly where he felt he was supposed to be. A fresh start, a new coaching staff, a different offensive environment, and the particular hunger of a player who went through a genuinely difficult physical year and emerged on the other side still wanting to prove something. That is the kind of psychological profile you want in a depth piece. Not someone collecting a paycheck. Someone looking to reclaim something. Tyler Fitzgerald has something to reclaim, and the Blue Jays gave him the environment to do it. Now let's get to the trade rumor that is genuinely dividing this fan base, because this one requires a measured look from every angle before you land on a conclusion. Sports Illustrated published a mock trade concept this week involving the Toronto Blue Jays sending Jose Berrios to the Chicago White Sox in exchange for outfielder Andrew Benintendi. And it is the kind of idea that, when you first see it, makes complete financial sense on the surface, and then, when you actually think about it for 30 seconds, raises approximately 11,000 red flags. Here is the case for the trade. Berrios is ranked 6th on Spotrac's list of most likely MLB trade candidates. His 7-year, $131 million contract has him owed $66 million over the remaining 3 years, with an opt-out after 2026 that he will exercise if he pitches well. He posted a 4.17 ERA last season, which is perfectly competent for a number 4 or number 5 starter but underwhelming for the salary attached to it. He missed the entire postseason run with a right elbow stress fracture. The Blue Jays have added Dylan Cease. They have Gausman. They have Scherzer. They have Bieber coming back. The rotation at full health does not desperately need Berrios the way it did 2 years ago, and if the front office believes they can get legitimate offensive value back while clearing payroll flexibility, the conversation is worth having. Andrew Benintendi has quietly become one of the more consistent left-handed bats in the American League. He has posted back-to-back 20-plus home run seasons in 2024 and 2025. He is a reliable contact hitter who has eclipsed triple-digit hits in each of his last 3 seasons. He provides the kind of veteran, professional at-bat that this Blue Jays lineup desperately needs more of when the middle of the order struggles. And the contracts, as the Sports Illustrated piece noted, are financially comparable enough that a straight swap makes logistical sense from a bookkeeping standpoint. But here is where the entire premise falls apart, and it falls apart hard. The Toronto Blue Jays are currently starting Patrick Corbin against a playoff contender in the second week of April. They have 4 starters on the injured list. They signed Max Scherzer out of necessity as much as desire. The rotation is operating at significantly below full capacity, and the reinforcements, Bieber, Berrios, Yesevich, are the cavalry that this team needs to arrive healthy and ready when May and June begin. Trading Berrios right now, while his trade value is complicated by both the elbow stress fracture and his current absence, while the rotation is already stretched beyond comfortable limits, is not a creative roster maneuver. It is sporting suicide dressed up in a spreadsheet. The Blue Jays do not need another outfielder. They have 7. They literally had 7 outfielders on the opening day roster, and that number has not gotten smaller since then. What they need is Jose Berrios back healthy and taking the ball every 5th day and eating innings so that Max Scherzer can be managed carefully at 41 years old, so that Patrick Corbin does not have to carry more weight than he is equipped to handle, so that the bullpen is not being pushed to its limits in every game. Berrios is the solution to the problem that currently exists with this team. Trading him for an outfielder compounds the problem while appearing to address a non-problem. There is also the contractual complexity that makes this move even more difficult to execute than it appears on a whiteboard. Berrios has an 8-team no-trade clause. The White Sox would need to be on the approved list of destinations for any deal to work, and there is nothing publicly available to confirm they are. He has an opt-out after the 2026 season. Any team trading for him would be betting on a bounce-back, knowing that if Berrios does bounce back and pitch well, he will opt out of the final 2 years and walk into free agency. And if he does not bounce back and remains the pitcher who posted a 4.17 ERA last year, then the acquiring team is locked into his $24 million annual salary for 2027 and 2028. That risk profile is not exactly what rebuilding teams are looking for. The conclusion here is simple, and it is one that virtually every serious Blue Jays analyst who has looked at this situation arrives at eventually. The Blue Jays are not trading Jose Berrios for Andrew Benintendi or anyone else in the immediate future. The rotation is too depleted to voluntarily remove a starting pitcher who, when healthy, can give you quality innings. The organizational need is for more starting pitching, not less. And the front office, regardless of whatever rumors are swirling through social media this week, understands that their path back to October runs through a fully healthy rotation, not through addition by subtraction in the middle of an already chaotic early season. What this fan base should be rooting for right now is Berrios returning to the mound in May, healthy and motivated, and pitching with the chip on his shoulder that comes from having missed the entire postseason run last year and watching his team come within 2 outs of winning a World Series without him. That is a man with something to prove. Give him the ball. Let him prove it. The best version of Jose Berrios is a legitimate number 3 pitcher on a World Series contender. The Blue Jays need that version of him desperately right now. The picture that emerges when you put all of these stories together is of a franchise that is navigating genuine adversity, not the kind of adversity that reveals weakness but the kind that reveals character. They beat the best team in baseball despite starting Patrick Corbin in the same series. They added a player for cash considerations who could become a genuine asset when the injuries thin out the roster further. They are fielding trade noise around a player they need to keep while managing one of the most complex roster situations in the American League. And through all of it, they are still 5-5 with a Twins series starting now and a schedule that, if they can find their footing, sets up favorably for a strong April finish. Take a deep breath, Blue Jays Nation. This is still the defending American League champion roster. The cavalry is coming. Bieber is throwing off a mound. Berrios is working through his recovery. Yesevich is on a rehab assignment. Barger is day-to-day rather than gone for the season. Alejandro Kirk is consulting with a specialist and exploring all options. The injured list is long right now, but it is not permanent. When this team gets healthy, truly, fully healthy, it is one of the best assembled rosters in the American League. That fact has not changed. The early season has been bumpy and uncomfortable and a little scary at times. But one big win against the Dodgers, one new piece arriving with something to prove, and one trade rumor decisively rejected is exactly the kind of week that turns a season around. Now it is your turn. Who do you think Tyler Fitzgerald can become for this team when he gets his call-up? And should the Blue Jays even be considering trading Berrios while the rotation is this depleted, or is that the craziest idea you have heard all week? Drop every take you have got in the comments right now because this community needs to talk about all of it. If this video gave you everything you needed heading into the Twins series, smash that like button because it helps this channel grow and keeps the Blue Jays coverage coming every single day. And if you are not subscribed yet, hit that button right now because we are going to be with you for every pitch, every roster move, every trade rumor, and every comeback moment of this 2026 season. Go Blue Jays! We will see you in the next one.